The little boy had been stabbed 20 times. His lung had collapsed, and burns covered nearly a third of his body. Somehow, he still made it out of that burning house alive. He was only 8 years old, and when detectives finally asked him what happened, the boy didn't give them a complicated story. "My dad killed my mom. Then he told them his father had attacked him too. Let me tell you something." From that moment on, investigators weren't just trying to solve a murder. They were trying to understand how one family had ended up inside a house where a child was fighting to stay alive. Kenyatta Barron was 33 years old and raising 2 children, Ronnie and Ronnie O'Neal. She and Ronnie O'Neal III had a troubled relationship that had seen its share of problems. They had broken up and gotten back together, and police had been called during earlier conflicts. But Ronnie eventually returned to the house, and Kenyatta allowed him to stay. That decision would have devastating consequences. Ronnie was 9 years old and had cerebral palsy and autism. She communicated in her own way, and Ronnie had learned some sign language so he could communicate with his sister. Kenyatta was also attending Hillsborough Community College while raising her children. Her son would later remember playing football with her outside. Those ordinary memories matter because before this became a murder case, this was a family. Late one night in Riverview, Florida, Kenyatta called 911.
"Help me, please.
What's your address?
Help me, please.
Where?
She was terrified, and the dispatcher struggled to get her location because she was having trouble speaking clearly. She told the dispatcher she had been shot and begged for help. Then another voice came through the phone.
Hello, what's up?
Ma'am, hello, ma'am.
Right now, come out here and help me kill it. Now!
Deputies were already heading toward the neighborhood, but they weren't the only people who knew something was wrong. Neighbors heard screaming. Then one neighbor saw Kenyatta run from the house looking for help. She made it to a nearby home and started banging on the door. But Ronnie followed her, carrying a shotgun. James Gray lived nearby. He heard the commotion and looked outside. What he saw would later become important to the case. Kenyatta on the ground with Ronnie standing over her. Gray's fiancé called 911. When deputies reached the neighborhood, Kenyatta was still outside. She was badly injured, and paramedics could not save her. Kenyatta Barron was pronounced dead at the scene. But deputies hadn't even finished dealing with that when they noticed something else. Smoke. The family home was burning. Flames were spreading through the house, and there were still people inside. Ronnie O'Neal came out through the garage. Deputies ordered him to stop, but he refused. Officers eventually used a taser and took him into custody. Even then, O'Neal continued shouting about demons and accusing Kenyatta of being evil. But firefighters had a more urgent problem: the children. They went inside the burning home. Smoke filled the rooms, and firefighters searched for anyone still alive. Then they found Ronnie Jr. He was alive, but barely. His body was covered with serious injuries, including multiple stab wounds and severe burns. He was rushed to the hospital. Doctors found that his lung had collapsed, and he would need extensive treatment before anyone knew whether he would survive. And there was still another child inside. Firefighters continued searching and found Ronnie. She had suffered catastrophic injuries. The little girl could not be saved. Just like that, Kenyatta and her daughter were gone, while Ronnie Jr. was fighting for his life. Investigators began documenting the scene. There were signs of extreme violence throughout the home, and they believed the fire had been deliberately started. Now detectives had a crime scene, 2 dead victims, a critically injured child, a suspect in custody, and a 911 recording that had captured part of the chaos. But they still needed one thing. They needed to know what happened inside that house before the fire. The only person who could potentially tell them was an 8-year-old boy lying in a hospital bed. Ronnie was placed on a ventilator and underwent treatment for extensive burns, including skin grafting over a large portion of his body. Nobody knew whether he would make it, but he did. And when Ronnie finally became strong enough to talk, investigators began learning what had happened inside that house. Ronnie survived, but surviving physically was only the first part. He had lost his mother, lost his sister, and endured an attack that left his body covered in serious injuries. When detectives were finally able to speak with him, they asked simple questions about that night.
Basically, I was sitting in my room and I saw my mom and my dad arguing in their room. I just saw my dad holding a shotgun. My mom ran into my sister's room into the closet.
And when your mother ran into your sister's room, what did your father do? Did he go after her?
Yes. My sister was sitting on the bed, and then my dad told me to walk around and say, like, some words. Allah Akbar.
Was there a time when your mother was able to get out of the closet?
I just saw her, like, she was, like, stumbling outside, and then I just saw my dad chase her.
Did he do something to your sister?
He dragged her, like, dragged her into my parents' room. He hit her with an axe in the head, and then in the back, and the back, and then the head. And then, like, I saw her eyes roll, and then there was blood everywhere. He lighted something with a tissue and a match.
Do you remember your father ever having a can of gasoline?
Yes, he, like, spread it everywhere, and then he got the match and then he dropped it on the ground, and then put, like, all the fire up here. He put me on the ground, and then he, like, had his foot on top. I was laying on my stomach, he had his foot on top of me, and he was holding me down, and he was, like, lighting a match. He was lighting a match with the tissue. No, but I remember, actually, before that, he called someone, I don't know who, and he said, I just killed someone. I just killed this beat.
Investigators compared the boy's story with the physical evidence inside the home, and key parts of his account matched what they found. Make it make sense. This wasn't a case where investigators had one accusation and nothing else. There was the 911 call, the neighbors, the physical evidence, the fire, the injuries, and the surviving child. Ronnie O'Neal III was eventually charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, first-degree arson, 2 counts of aggravated child abuse, and resisting an officer without violence. Prosecutors sought the death penalty, but the case would not go straight to trial. O'Neal's mental condition became an issue, and a judge eventually ruled that he was not competent to stand trial. That meant more evaluations and more waiting before Kenyatta's family could see the case reach a jury. Eventually, O'Neal was found competent, and the case moved forward. Then, he made a decision that would completely change the trial. He wanted to represent himself.
The evidence is going to show that we are under some of the most vicious, lying, fabricating, fictitious government you ever seen. By the time it's all said and done, you will see who is the mass murderers. In Tampa Bay, the state of Florida. You will know why what occurred on March 18, 2018 occurred. And the evidence is going to show that law enforcement tampered with evidence to meet their such high burden of proof. Because originally, it wasn't enough. So we had to tamper with evidence. Since it was such evident already, but we still had to tamper with evidence. to show he did not see me shoot his mom. The evidence is going to show my son said many things that are not true. The evidence is going to show that I called 911 during Kenyatta Barron's 911 call. But all of a sudden, it ends up after I called Kenyatta, after Kenyatta Barron's call was made. Now I'm calling 911. But originally, I called 911 without even knowing she called 911 during her call. But the evidence is going to show that your representatives and law enforcement, local law enforcement, wanted to make it seem like I'm some kind of menace to society. And I ran after killing Kenyatta Barron, knowing that authority was on the way to kill my own children. I wonder why I would do something like that for no reason. And I'm standing here competent as can be, representing myself today. The evidence is going to show my son did not witness me viciously beat his mom to death. The evidence is going to show my neighbor, Khalil Brown, whom they are trying to keep out of this trial, witnessed me take 3 strikes. The evidence is going to show that law enforcement and this administration wanted to make me look like a menace to society. So they added several mini strikes on that video and audio that you just heard. And they added several statements that I did not say. Anything that I may have said, they exacerbated it and made me say it consecutively over and over like Allahu Akbar, which I may have said once or twice. But they wanted to make me seem like a terrorist. And so you hear it 8 or 9 times, and you hear me calling Kenyatta Barron a bitch and a whore. The evidence is going to show that I called my dad after calling 911. But that call is all of a sudden missing from the T-Mobile records that we have acquired from T-Mobile. The 911 call that I made to 911 and the 911 call that you just heard cannot be proven that it was made, because after I called for an investigation of those 911 calls, all of a sudden they become missing from all evidence. The evidence is going to show Kenyatta Barron supposedly made a 911 call, but you cannot find that on her call log, which we pulled from her actual phone. They say she made a call at 11:43. There's no 911 call at 11:43 on her call log. All of a sudden, after I called for an investigation of the original cause. That's what the evidence is going to show. The evidence is going to show I look alone, but I am backed by a mighty God. The evidence is going to show I love my children. And the evidence is going to prove to you that this whole entire case has been tampered with and fabricated before it's all said and done. I can guarantee you that. Mark my words. The evidence is going to show that they say, I said, come out here, son, and help me kill this bitch. But my neighbor, Khalil Brown, nor my neighbor, Mona Lisa Brothers Gray, or any of her children, Mia Thompson, or Gracie Diggs, or Mr. Gray, heard me say any of those things. In fact, the evidence is going to show that Khalil Brown heard me say she killed me twice and then nothing else. The CRA is going to show, for some of you who don't know what that is, that's the criminal report affidavit that the law enforcement lead detective Thomas Sturks is the author of. The evidence will show that in that CRA, I told the neighbor, don't come outside, call 911 now. But you don't hear that on this audio for some reason. But you hear all these other things that I did not say. That same CRA will have the statements of Khalil Brown saying that he saw me take 3 strikes with that shotgun and nothing else. The evidence is going to show that Mr. Harmon here says that that big chunk missing out of her arm was a bird shot. It was not a bird shot. And whatever kind of shot it was, if it was a slug shot or a bird shot, where's the missing pieces of her arm? The evidence is going to show you will not see any missing pieces of her arm in that closet where she was shot.
He accused investigators of fabricating evidence and argued that the evidence had been manipulated. He also claimed his son had not seen everything prosecutors said he had seen, but prosecutors pointed to Kenyatta's 911 call, the neighbor who saw O'Neal standing over her, the injuries, and Ronnie's testimony. Then came one of the most difficult moments of the trial. Ronnie had to testify. He was 11 years old now, but the memories had followed him. He testified remotely, separated from the courtroom by video. Sitting on the other side was the man accused of attacking him, his father.
Good.
It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
Do you remember talking to some attorneys that came to see you? And they said that they were there on my behalf by the name of Jennifer Spradley, Carolyn Schindler.
What's the objection?
Improper impeachment.
I'm not impeaching.
Okay.
I'm asking questions.
Well, the question on the table is if he recalls the attorneys coming to see him. He can answer that question as far as yes or no, but then we'll see what the next question is. So you can go ahead and answer that question. Do you recall that event happening?
Yes.
Doing things with me as far as things in the neighborhood and going to family events and things like that.
Objection, relevance.
I'm going to sustain the objection. So, Mr. O'Neal, your questions have to pertain to issues that were raised on direct examination, all right, as part of your cross-examination. So I have sustained the objection, so do not answer that question, okay? Next question, Mr. O'Neal.
Do you remember doing an interview with Detective Dirks?
Yes.
Did you guys go to basketball and football games, things like that, together?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Did you guys go to a Bucks game together?
Yes.
Did you guys talk about anything that happened that night?
No.
No? At any time, did he talk to you about those things and tell you what to say here today?
No.
What about your new dad, Richard?
No.
All right. Did you see me beat your mom?
No.
Did you see me shoot your mom?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Do you remember doing an interview with a woman named Jennifer Miller? Did you hear me? Jennifer Miller?
No, I do not remember.
Well, you did do an interview with her. And you told her.
Objection and proper impeachment.
What are you getting ready to ask him next?
About a question that I just asked.
Okay, so if he did the interview with Jennifer Miller?
No, well, before that, about him seeing the shooting with his mom.
Okay, well, you can go ahead and ask that question then.
And he told me Jennifer Miller something different. So I believe it's proper.
Well, you have to identify what record you're relying upon as far as the statement goes.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I was about to do that.
I know, but you have to identify for the record, so you need to give the state the heads up on what record you're going to be utilizing or relying upon.
Well, it's Jennifer Miller interview, page 24.
Okay. Page 24 of what?
Line 15.
Is that from a deposition or from a report?
That's not from the report, it's an interview. That's sort of a deposition from Jennifer Miller.
All right, state, do you know what Mr. O'Neal's referring to?
I believe this is a forensic interview.
Okay, so go ahead.
Page 24, line 15. Do you remember telling her after she asked? She said, and then you said that there was a shooting outside, and then in your sister's closet. And then she said, who was getting the shooting? And you said, my mom. And she said, your mom, okay. And did you see it happen, or did you just hear it happen, or something else? And you said, I heard it and saw it. Do you remember that?
Do you remember making that statement to
Like,
Miss Miller? Yeah, just answer yes, no, or I don't know.
like saying that my mom shot.
No. Let me ask it again. You replied to Jennifer Miller's question. She asked you who was getting the shooting, and you said your mom. And she said, okay, did you see it? And you said, I heard it and saw it. Do you remember saying that to her?
No, I did not.
But you did hear a shot that night. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when you heard that shot, where were you at that time?
Standing by the house phone.
All right. Do you know where your mom was shot at? And what part of the body she was shot in? Do you know anything about that? Can you hear me fine?
You said where she was shot?
Yes, sir. Do you know where your mom was shot at?
No.
Deposition page 68.
Whose deposition?
Our deposition of Mr. Yes, what?
Page and line, please.
Page 66, line 19 to 22. Oh, no, hold on. I'm sorry. Page 68, line 14. And, hold on, 1 second. Oh, I'm sorry. This is not a deposition. This is page 3.
From what?
23, interview, second interview with Detective Dirks. Page 3 of 23, second interview with Detective Dirks.
All right, and what is the question?
Ma'am, just a moment.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second. Let the state find what you're referring to. Okay, you may proceed.
All right. And so you said you do not know where she was shot. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Well, did you know that you told Detective Dirks during your interview with him? You said that I shot her in the stomach.
When you say I shot her, you need to be a little more
Well,
specific.
You just said in the stomach. He asked you, where did your mom get shot? And you said, in the stomach. Do you remember that?
No, I do not.
You said just a while ago that you did not see me shoot your mom or beat your mom. Is that correct?
Yes.
Page 28. Interview with Miss Miller. Miss Jennifer Miller. Do you remember telling Miss Jennifer Miller that you saw everything and I was outside? Do you remember that? She said to you, did you hear? Did you hear? No, she said, you did hear? Did you see what was happening or did you not? You said, I saw everything. And she said, you saw everything? How did you see everything? And you said, because I saw everything. And she said, where? Were you outside or were you inside or something else? And you said, I was outside. Do you remember that?
Question is, do you remember saying that to someone named Jennifer Miller?
Or do you remember saying that to Jennifer Miller, that you were outside and that you saw everything?
No.
All right. And did you know in your deposition by my counselors, Jennifer Spradley and Carolyn Schimler,
Good page in line in the deposition. Mr. O'Neal.
page 103. Did you know that you told them that you never went outside with your mom before the police arrived? Do you remember telling them that? She asked you, she said, okay, so is your mommy ever inside of the house when anything is set on fire? And you said, no, she was outside. And she asked, okay, and are you ever with your mom outside the house? And you said, no. Do you remember telling her that?
Yes.
You do. Right? Did I hurt you that night of this incident?
Yes.
I did. And how did I hurt you?
You stabbed me.
Second interview. Detective
Can you give
Dirks.
us a date of that date and time?
March 26, 2018. Don't remember the time, but it was. Which
Who was the interview with, Mr. O'Neal?
the interview was with Detective Dirks,
Okay.
page 20 to 23. Do you remember telling Detective Dirks after he asked, did your dad hurt you the night that he hurt your sister? And you said, no, he didn't hurt me. Do you remember that?
No.
And you said just a while ago, I stabbed you with a knife, right?
Yes.
Detective Dirks, interview number 2, March 26, 2018, page 9 and 23. Do you remember telling Detective Dirks when he asked you, when did he hurt you with a knife? And you said, I don't know. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Do And then Detective Dirks asked you, was it the same night or was it before that? And you said, no, it was another day. Do you remember that?
Sorry, repeat that again?
Detective Dirks says, was it the same night or was it before that? And you said to him, no, it was another day. And he said, and was that the same night you came to the hospital for all this or something else? And you said to him, something else. Do you remember that?
I don't understand.
All right, I'll pose the question again.
Well, do you recall telling Detective Dirks that? Yes, no, or I don't know?
Why I got hurt? Like,
No, he asked you, when did it happen? That night. He asked you, when did your dad stab you? And he said, was it that night or was it something else? And you replied, it was something else.
no, I do not remember saying that.
When you heard the gunshot that night, can you hear me?
Yes.
When you heard that gunshot that night, was your sister hurt already, or was she hurt after that shot?
She was hurt after that.
All right. Do you remember?
All right,
In
I'm
the
sorry.
interview-
Hold on one second, Mr. O'Neal, 1 second. So I just want to make sure, let's just take everybody, just take a moment. Let's stand up in the jury box and just stretch and get blood flowing. We're not taking a break, we're just taking a little stretch break, all right? Okay, very good, very good. All right, and Mr. You want to stand up, you can take a stretch break too. All right, very good. Let's continue on.
So you did say that your sister was hurt after the shot, right?
Yes.
Right. Do you remember in the interview with Jennifer Miller, pages 34 and 35? And also, well, let me just start with Jennifer Miller. You told her on page 34 and 35 said, was your sister hurt before or after the closet shooting? You said she was hurt before the closet shooting. Do you remember that?
No.
And do you remember telling Detective Dirks on page 19 of 23, March 26, 2018, he said, he asked you the same question. Was your sister hurt before your mom runs outside or after? And you said, after hurting his sister, no, here it is. You said, after hurting your sister, then I hurt your mom and ran outside. Do you remember that?
No.
One second.
His testimony was one piece of evidence among many presented by prosecutors. The defense continued challenging the investigation, but prosecutors argued that the evidence pointed toward Ronnie O'Neal III. After weeks of testimony, the case went to the jury. Now they had to decide whether the evidence proved that O'Neal had killed Kenyatta, killed Ron Nivea, tried to kill Ronnie, and set the house on fire. The little boy had already survived the night. Now his father was waiting to find out what the jury would do. The jury did not take long to reach its decision. Ronnie O'Neal III was found guilty on every count. 2 counts of first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, first-degree arson, 2 counts of aggravated child abuse, and resisting an officer without violence. But the case wasn't finished. Because prosecutors had sought the death penalty, the jury still had to consider whether O'Neal should be executed or spend the rest of his life behind bars. His defense presented evidence about his mental health and past trauma. The jury ultimately did not reach the unanimous decision required for a death sentence. So the judge sentenced Ronnie O'Neal III to life in prison without the possibility of parole, along with additional sentences for the other offenses. Kenyatta's family finally had the opportunity to speak. They had spent years waiting for this moment. They had lost a daughter and a granddaughter, and they had watched a family they loved disappear in one night. There was no sentence that could bring Kenyatta back. There was no sentence that could bring Ron Nivea back. And there was no sentence that could erase what Ronnie had survived. But the conviction meant the man found responsible would spend the rest of his life in prison. O'Neal later appealed his convictions and sentences. In 2023, Florida's 2nd District Court of Appeal rejected his arguments and affirmed the judgment and sentences. The Florida Supreme Court later declined discretionary review. But Ronnie's story didn't end in that courtroom. After the attack, he had to learn how to live without his mother and sister. He had to recover from severe physical injuries and deal with the emotional weight of surviving something no child should ever experience. Then, something unexpected happened. Detective Mike Blair had responded to the home that night. He had seen the crime scene and knew how badly Ronnie had been injured. While Ronnie was recovering, Blair visited him. That relationship grew, and Blair and his wife, Danielle, eventually became Ronnie's foster parents. In 2019, they officially adopted him. But the transition wasn't simple. Ronnie worried about having to move again. He wanted to know how long he could stay. He needed reassurance that this home wasn't temporary. The Blairs gave him that reassurance. They told him he was safe, loved, and part of their family. Years later, Ronnie still remembered his mother. He remembered playing with her and the small moments he shared with his sister. Those memories mattered because Kenyatta Barron was more than a name in a murder case. Ron Nevaeh was more than a victim listed in court documents. And Ronnie was more than the little boy who survived. They were a mother and 2 children who had a life before that terrible night. Ronnie's biological father's actions changed his life forever, but they did not get to decide what the rest of his life would look like. The child who walked out of that burning house survived. He recovered. He found another family. And he was given the chance to grow up knowing something every child deserves to know. He was safe, he was loved, and he belonged somewhere. If you're enjoying these stories and want more true crime cases that go beyond the headlines, subscribe to Fable of Crime and turn on notifications. You never know what case we're uncovering next.